Hi everyone, and welcome to the Early Years screencast to support all of those closed settings out there make applications into the Childcare Sector Support Scheme. My name is Mark Feeney and I work with the Early Years team in Belfast, and I'm joined by my colleague Peter.
My name is Peter McKinney. I'm an operations manager with Early Years, and we're here today to walk through the application form and reference the guidance notes as well within that. Mark.
So as you can see, this is the application form for closed daycare or school-aged children settings, and this covers the period of closure from the 1st of April this year right through until the 30th of June 2020. Now, applications opened on Thursday the 7th of May and they closed on Thursday the 21st of May. So it's important that you do take time as soon as possible this week to review the application form and to gather the necessary information in order to support a successful submission from your setting. Initially, the information is quite straightforward. You submit an application form as a registered daycare setting only, as a registered school-age childcare setting only, or if you offer dual services, both as a registered daycare and a school-aged childcare setting.
A point to note, Mark,
yes,
on that is where there are multiple locations, a separate application must be submitted for each individual setting, and that's each registered setting.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. And the other thing I think it's pretty clearly put up front as well, it's one application per setting, and that covers all of the 3 months where funding will be drawn down from the Departments of Health and Department of Education. So it's one application only to cover all of the 3 months. In the next section, you have to denote the number of registered child places that you have, either as a daycare provision or a school age provision. That is necessary because different formula are used in order to calculate the level of grant aid that can be provided to each setting. That will become clearer as we move through the application form. Peter, is there anything else there?
No, that's covered.
Okay. If we move down through to the how to apply section, guidance has been revised as of yesterday, and what we should note now that applications should be posted to the BSO, and you can see their address there in Franklin Street, Belfast. If this is posing difficulty, what all settings should do is to contact the BSO directly, and you can see that there are a few telephone numbers there further down the page, which gives you direct access to BSO and also an email address through which you can contact them as well. But primarily, the BSO will be expecting applications to be posted to them. Postage is a little bit slow throughout this period, so we recommend that you try and get your application posted by Tuesday, the 19th of May, and you should consider a sign-for service if at all possible. Peter?
Yeah, that's clear. It's post only. If there's any difficulties, contact BSO.
It's fantastic. If we work down through then into section 1, this is a pretty standard government grant aid form by all accounts. The first thing that you need to do is to understand that you need to comply with the data protection regulations. So it's a simple checkbox there. There's also a declaration by the applicant. So please take your time to read through any of these in detail. If you have any issues, you can drop us a line through the cva@early-years.org email, or alternatively, you can reach out to the guys in BSO who can take you through any of those necessary statements. Peter, anything on the signature of the applicant and the date?
Just to note that the person signing has to be either the financial owner of the setting or organisation, or in the case of a voluntary sector organisation, the chair of the management committee.
Okay, so that's very clear. So it's important that you have the relevant signatory on the application, otherwise it will not be processed.
In section 2, this is getting some detail from you about your setting. The first thing here is about your childcare provider reference number, or your CCP number as it's known, and this is available, if you don't know it, on the Family Support NI website. We're aware that some people have not been able to get those numbers or don't have them handy, so you can contact Family Support NI and they'll provide that to you if you can't find it online through their search functions with their online messaging, or if need be, you can call them or email them. So that's your CCP reference number, and it's important to make sure that is absolutely accurate, and that'll be used by BSO to validate the applications. The next box there is about the date setting closed, and it's important to put that in about when you're setting closed. This funding, financial assistance, goes from the 1st of April to the 30th of June for that period only, but put down there the actual date that you're setting closed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The other section here then is about the details, about the main contact details and who is the lead contact and their details for the setting. And just a point and note on that lead contact, this has to be somebody who has an appropriate level within the organisation to answer any queries or have the authority to speak on queries back to BSO or to speak on behalf of that organisation. Okay, so it's important somebody with the right authority is that lead contact and their details go in there. The next section there, section 3, is specifically about the banking details. This is one absolutely to get accurate when you're putting it in, but to help the accuracy of that, BSO are asking in this process that not just you put in those details there, but you also supply a bank account details or a copy of your statement to ensure that the address, the details, the sort code, and the account number are all kept accurately. That's clearly in the guidance notes with reference to that again, to make sure you produce that information and documentation to support those particular elements: business name, address, sort code, and account number.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, so that brings us to section 4 of the application form, the monthly fixed operational costs. And here what each setting needs to do is to document, along with proof of evidence, either through invoices and receipts and defrayment from the bank, all of those essential fixed costs that continue to be applied for daycares and school-aged children's settings that are closed from the 1st of April right through to the 30th of June. Now, this is incredibly important because details of the full fixed costs must be provided, and that's essential because the team in BSO will be assessing your application based on these costs that are submitted along with the supporting documentation. So if we look at the table that has been provided in the application form, this is table 1, what you will see is a range of the types of monthly fixed operational costs that have been supplied through BSO. Your job is to really bring all of your costs together and to specify the monthly costs relating to each of these different components. If some of these costs are annually, we suggest that you have the annual invoice available and you can show the defrayment of that amount from your bank account, and then we would simply divide that by 12 and make sure that that total goes in the amount per month. Quarterly, same process, divide it by 3 and put that value in the amount per month. If it's a monthly invoice, that just carries across through the different cells within the table. It should be noted that professional fees and admin fees are allowed as a fixed cost, as long as those costs are for the completion and the gathering together of data for this application form. So if there are costs that are attributable to submitting this application form, you can include those costs within Table 1 and they will be considered by the BSO. Peter.
A key point to note here, Mark, is in relation to the documentation supplied, where it says detail correlating with the documentary evidence. So it's really important that the adequate time is given to compile the detail, the particular receipts, invoices, and bank statements.
Yep.
Just to reference the guidance notes here on that, it just says here this information must match precisely to the figures and supporting documentation that you set out in that section, and there must be no ambiguity or payments may well be delayed, and you brought it up on the screen there, Mark. So it's a key point that the accuracy of your supporting documentation underneath supporting your figures is something that's really important to be aware of. Give yourself adequate time to do and make sure that that reads across to prevent any kind of follow-up that's required and may delay or at worst cause problems with your application.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's why early years have created this template. And many of you will have already accessed this template through our website. And what we have done really is to create an expenditure control sheet. So you can see here that lots of the headings that we have on our spreadsheet are actually the headings that are used within the application form itself. But just to give you an idea of the types of fixed costs that may be attributable to your setting, we have listed them here. And please feel free to use this template to model your fixed costs. This can be used to support the groundwork and the underpinning modeling, which can then be used to input into your application form, which of course you will print off along with all the support and documentation and post in through to the BSO. So that template is available. We will make sure that this template is on our website also, and that can be used by settings to help model their fixed costs for submission through to the BSO. Peter?
One last point, well, two last points for me, Mark. One is the documentation coming through, it explicitly states they're copies, not originals. Okay, so it's important. So just as a tip, make sure your copies are legible, depending on how you're printing. Okay. Second point for me is in relation to this section really is about the cost recovery of those essential costs over this period. And it's just important you really think clearly and put the effort into making sure you are accounting for all of your costs. This is about sustainability of settings, and it's important you really consider all those different categories and make sure you're putting down all of your costs that you're incurring over this period.
Excellent. And look, accompanying this document as well in this video today, we do have an FAQ section on our website. So please do log into the FAQ section. And as always, if there are any comments or questions or queries, you can reach through to early years at cva@early-years.org, or you can contact the guys in BSO also in the numbers that we reviewed earlier in the cast.
So this is section 5, which is about other financial support that's being received or has been applied for and is coming into the setting. So the examples of this would be any parental fees that continue to be paid, any potential PSEEP funding coming in against funded preschool activity within a daycare. And what this is about recording any of the income that would have a portion going against some of your fixed monthly costs that would then be netted off with a remainder left of what's not being covered, and that would form what the ask would be in terms of financial support. So it's important to be aware of those and to note those down, and they're asking these to be noted in the table here, which Mark is going to take us through.
Yeah, so you'll see the application form here, which is page 6 of 9, but quite useful if you go over to the guidance. you will see that they have an example table for illustrative purposes. So you may want to review this and just to check if your organisation is in receipt of any of these types of income. So, for example, if we take the PACIP funding, in this case, the period of funding is the 1st of April right through to the 31st of the 3rd, 21. The monthly value of that contract is in column D, and that's 2,300. However, the monthly value of that contract allocated towards fixed operational costs when closed is 460. So that's the value that goes towards supporting the fixed costs currently while a setting is closed. And if there is a difference between E and D, it's important in column F then that you specify what the funding is being used for if it's not being used towards your fixed costs. So another example, I guess, if we work through here, will be the Department for the Economy COVID Small Grant Scheme. We all know that that's available from the 1st of the 4th, 20 to the 30th of the 6th. It's the same period, I guess, as this scheme. A small glitch in the guidance here. Realistically, the value of that scheme is worth 3,333 per month. We would divide that by 3, the total value, to get the total monthly amount. And in this instance, in this illustrative example, £1,000 of that would be used towards fixed costs, which would mean there would be £2,333 that you would need to clearly demonstrate what those funds are being used for, if not going towards your fixed costs. So it could be other types of costs that aren't allowed within this example, but you need to clearly denote what those costs are and the value of the funding that is going towards those costs. Peter, is there anything else then regarding the income?
2 points from me in that. They're also asking if you're applying for other funding that you give them documentary evidence of that. Just to be clear, you may not have got it, but better to put that in the process. The other point is really important to make here around documentary evidence is that any funding you have coming in, as noted in this table, they're asking for documentary evidence to support that as well. Letters of offer, or receipts of funding, or confirmation emails, etc., notifications around that. So it's important to ensure the documentary evidence supports that as well. And any queries on that specific requirements, BSO can advise on the specifics around that.
Excellent. So I guess then, if you look at sections 4 and section 5, it's really important that you have the support and documentary evidence to support both the fixed costs, so receipts, invoices, and bank statements, and also with financial support and income in copies of those contracts and timescales, etc.
Section 6 is really straightforward but really important. It's the terms and conditions that support the funding. And so it's important you read these through, clarify your own responsibilities and what you're signing up to. And having read those, then it's about signing and submitting. That's the final part, but really important to read through those terms and conditions before signing and make sure you do sign.
So okay, so that's us been through the 6 sections of the form. All of that data is now being submitted in. And what the BSO will do is work to verify your fixed costs. They will also verify the income received. They will net the income received off the fixed costs, and they will award you up to 80% contribution towards those fixed operational costs. So what we would encourage you to do now is to look through the various scenarios that are applicable under this funding arrangement to check what the maximum value of drawdown is that your setting can receive per month. Values of drawdowns go from 4,000 per month for a child, for a daycare setting with less than 75 registered places, right up to a maximum ceiling of 7,600 per month for those settings with 75 or more registered daycare places and 40 or more registered school-age childcare places. They also have provided quite a friendly table outlining indicative examples of how they will process applications as they're received through. So we'd encourage you to identify which example is applicable to your setting and to review how those costs and how that grant aid is allocated before making your final submission through to the BSO.
Finally, everyone, just to close off, a reminder of the deadline that's coming up quickly. It's 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 21st of May, 2020. So it's important that people take action now in advance of that. And any queries, it's important that you've got avenues of support. You can see on the screen here, BSO, they've got their guidance notes, but also you can go through for points of clarity to them on the numbers or email that they outline. Or alternatively, you can also come through to ourselves, Early Years, on our cva@early-years.org email address, and we'll deal with your query that way. Thank you very much for sticking with us through this. We hope it's been helpful. And from us, just stay well and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.